These guys, they're up 62% this year. 62, the Moore Group. Wonderful, huh? Incredible stuff. Okay, and for me, they're the perfect example of the popcorn popper, if you will, or sort of the flooding the funnel thing, because they are really selfless. Oh, don't get me wrong, they want to build their business, but their job, they love adding value to people, and it's amazing. You do that long enough, crazy stuff happens. Like 62% up this year through the first quarter. That's a lot. It's not like they didn't do business last year, kids, right? Okay. Brian Pugh, I didn't see Brian back here. It's one of my favorite stories. He's up 44% this year so far. And here's the best part about it. In April, he's expecting to bring home net between 110 and 120,000. Brian, some of you know him. He's a 32-year-old ponytailed former bartender. Cool. Amir Elahi, I know Rashawn is here, works with Amir, did 20 transactions last year. He's on pace to break 40 this year. Okay, he's in our board as well, and one-on-one coaching both, right? Carlos Rea, I didn't see him in the crowd out here. Carlos, there's Carlos, all right, Carlos. On pace to nearly triple his personal production. Nearly triple, even while he's running an office of realtors for the associates out in Chino Hills. Okay, crazy? Some of you know Veronica Peterson. Veronica owns a skincare products company. Veronica's business last year did $17 million in revenue. She netted $3 million. She has an interesting car collection, by the way. She's done $11 million in the first 3 months of this year. You know what she said in our last meeting? She said, definitely my number one reasons for success so far this quarter is I hired a full-time personal assistant. And number two, I hired a brand manager for our product and took the thing off my plate that I swore I would never take off my plate because I'm so good at it and it's so important. Okay? And I'll give the Constantino Group, if you know them, the Constantino Group, they're up in Claremont. They've been doing business for a long time. They're up 42% so far through the first quarter. One last one I'll give you is Antoinette and Craig Habetz. Some of you met them at the board of directors. They own a software company, as I mentioned, and they're on pace to break a seven-figure net income this year, which is lovely, right, for them. Oh, he's 73, she's 65. He doesn't show up to the office ever, except for our strategic meetings every other week, and she shows up twice a week-ish. They're business owners. Does this make sense? Okay, folks, let's do takeaways real quick, and we'll take the final break. This break's only going to be 5 minutes, because then we're going to go into a couple of things I promised you. A unique approach to cash management. We're going to do that one. We've got 36 minutes. I'm going to do 3 topics. I'm not going to rush them. I'm going to stick a little higher level than getting too granular on these, but they are important. Is that fair? A unique approach to cash management. I'm going to share with you that I believe there are 3 things you must do every month that will prepare you best for managing and building wealth and not doing what I did. At age 40, my wife and I looked at our situation and circumstances, and interestingly enough, after me graduating top 5% Phi Beta Kappa Summa Cum Laude from Yale, I didn't say that to boast, as you'll hear in a second, going to an investment bank that bought a company, COO this, CEO that, at age 40, 13 marvelous years ago, our net worth was brilliantly negative. Now, one of the things I will share is there's probably a little more to the story than even the finances. I think both my wife and I would acknowledge it's a lot to do with maturity. For me, if you don't mind me sharing, our faith walk a lot, our journey, lessons learned in life, the quality of people we are now, because you know the old rule of thumb, the better the businessman or woman. And I don't want to neglect that one today, but we kind of have to for time, is you ain't building a great business unless you're building yourself. And your character attributes, there would not be, some people say, oh, you're growing, you have such a room full of people and all this kind of stuff and a following. Wouldn't have happened 13 years ago. Wouldn't have happened for a variety of reasons that I'll share for another day, okay? But 13 years ago, we had a negative net worth, and I will tell you an exercise that can change you forever is reviewing your financials once a month, particularly if you're a couple, a married couple, have a significant other, whatever your situation is, or a close person, to review it with someone else. It is a superpower habit. Because reviewing your P&L and balance sheet, and I'll show you a visual example of one here in a minute, reviewing that will lend itself towards, especially if you're a couple, both of you kind of blending. It's interesting, but most couples are polar opposites, as you know, especially you realtors going on listing presentations. You got to speak French to this one and German to that one, okay? The truth of the matter is they're polar opposites. So one of you is a free-spirited spender, and the other one of you is the analytic, wants to protect every nickel. One of you loves spreadsheets and numbers, and the other one of you is like, this is ridiculous. Let's just make some decisions, right? It's normal, but when you do the exercise together every month, it could take you 5 minutes. In the beginning, it takes longer, but it could take you very little time as you get in a rhythm of it, and you'll find that you know what a wonder it is for marriage, for those of you that are married, is it takes the number one risk factor in marriage and makes it a strength. Because we're very aligned, and there's not a whole lot of stuff when it comes to money now, after many years of conversations. Does that make sense? So what do you want to review every month? And I hope all of you also realize that when I show you what you need as tools, you're going to go, some of you are going to go, there's no way on earth I'm ever doing that. And I want you to view that as wisdom. Somebody else is supposed to do it. Okay, number two, some of you who like spreadsheets are thinking, I'm going to go do this. I need it. I can do this. And I'm telling you right now, that's fine for a month or two, but it won't stay. Willpower is not a business strategy. It's hopium, as a mentor of mine likes to call it. Okay, so what do you need? You need a P&L first. A P&L is a profit and loss statement. And if you're really not financially savvy, don't worry yourself. It's not complicated. Most people call it a P&L, profit and loss, or an income statement. And all it is your income and your expenses on one sheet of paper. Here we go. Here's the income. Brian allows me to share this, which is kind of him, as the producer that he is. And those are his income coming in from whatever. He's got a team of people and all this. All those numbers hit his bank account. Crazy? And then all down here are his personal expenses first. Those of you familiar with Dave Ramsey's stuff, these categories almost identically match up his categories. Not that it matters, but that's what we're using here. And then down below, all of the business expense category, which almost perfectly aligns with the tax return. If you're structured as an S Corp, S Corp's your favorite? S Corp, that's what we do. Oh, by the way, he does my books and stuff also, in case you didn't know that, for years. He's good, all right? S Corp, and then out of the S Corp, you pay yourself a salary. W-2, which takes out all the taxes and the payroll taxes and all that. That way, when you get to April, you're not getting whacked over the head. And you're not getting all concerned about what's going to happen to me, I'm nervous. Because you've had it coming out all along, W-2 style, just like you had a boss. Make sense? So your P&L is your income, and all this is what hit the bank account or went out of the bank account in that month. Super simple. Got it? And you get down to the bottom and you end up with a profit. Okay? Here's your net income by month, that kind of stuff. And then underneath, you have a balance sheet. Here's the second piece of this. Now, notice the way I love to have clients structure it or have them pay someone to do it. And by the way, we know some people through the grapevine. You know, Eddie does this. We know people through the grapevine that do this too. There are people out there that'll do this for you. It's not that big a deal. You know what Brian did? He went on Upwork.com, our favorite, put it as a job, said he'll pay $150 a month, hired 3 people, had all 3 of them do it for 1 month. And it was like his version, he called it American Idol. He said, and then I picked the one who was the best and got it to be the fastest and most accurate. How cool is that, right? So then you have a balance sheet. The balance sheet is the true scoreboard. You know balance sheets, but you never measure it for yourself. I'm going to tell you something. I'm very concerned. I work with people. We're in a good place right now. People have momentum. There's some cool numbers. People's businesses are moving. And then you still don't have a frickin' pot to piss in. At the end of all of this, you're still back where you were financially because you never had intentionality around building your own agenda, if you will. Assets, your cash, your investments, your real estate market value. Make sense? Liabilities, credit card debt, car loans, all those sorts of things so that you have a net worth. Here's a young guy with a nice net worth and some big income coming in now, which is beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, wonderful. Oh, does everybody in here understand? I don't care. We have people that come to my home and we're sharing all this crazy stuff. And I tell people all the time, I don't give a crap what your net worth is. I don't care that half of you have negative net worths. That's normal. Welcome to America. Right? Okay? But if you track it, the way you do it is you track it where the months are lined up next to each other. You know why you do that? Why you need that? Because you're not necessarily business school savvy on financials. And the reason you line up the months next to each other is because after 3-4 months of looking at it, you start to act, without even realizing it, act like a high-level business owner. My favorite, because you're just looking at numbers going, why is that so high? That doesn't make sense. Exactly. That's what CEOs do. COOs, especially CFOs do. Or that number looks too low. Something's missing here. Make sense? I was coaching, some of you met Daniel Boyer, right, who owns Southland Properties in Glendora, and he was up here as a speaker once and did some guest speaking. So I'm coaching him, and he's doing this for the first time with his partner, Art. It's like 4 months into the year, and he goes, Art, what's that number? It's like, professional fees or something like this. And Art's like, I don't know. Let me check and I'll come back. He comes back a few minutes later and goes, oh, that's Dave's fee for coaching. And I said, oh, crap. Why did I have to bring this up as a topic, right? I've trained them too well now, right? That's exactly the kinds of questions you ask. And this is how you manage a P&L as a business owner. That's too high. We got to do something about it. That's too low. Let's check that and see if that's right. That's exactly how, that's it. That's it. Everybody with me? You don't need budgets. I'm going to say something counterintuitive. Everybody will tell you that I'm out of my mind. I know a lot of successful people, more successful than I, that will tell you what I'm about to tell you is nonsense. But I'm telling you, I don't believe in budgets. Total waste of time. It's a fantasy at best. You're going to be better than it or worse. It has nothing to do with the reality. Put the actual numbers in there only and try to get better. The end. That's how you build a life. Fair enough? Okay. But that's not all. Use of proceeds. This is the punchline here. When I mentioned on the flyer a unique approach to cash management, this is what I mean. I don't care what you want to do with your money. If you say, I want to blow it and do this all the time, I'm in. There's a woman that I've known now for 4 years in the real estate industry, Gigi Cassie. She's doing wonderfully. She wants to do and has been doing 3 vacations a year with her family, and she doesn't go third class, if you get my drift, right? She wants to spend on vacations because she values vacations as quality of life. For her, it's not an expense, it's an asset, if you get my drift, right? I'm in. I don't care what you choose, I care that you choose. Intentionality is everything, and most of us are running around on the treadmill like the hamster in life, and what we do is we have a good year, we have a bad year. We have a good year, we make good money, we make no money. We make good money, and then 20 years later, here we are, and the carousel lands in the very same spot. Use of proceeds means you're now being intentional about what you're going to do with excess cash every month, and it's no longer subject to a conversation in the future. We pre-plan it as an individual or a couple or whatever your situation is. Fair enough? So what could you do as use of proceeds? I'll give you a couple of my favorites, which you don't have to buy into. This is your life, not mine, right? For me, I'm a little weird because, Dave Ramsey would suggest always pay off debt first. I don't necessarily agree. Why? Because what if you pay off debt and then you don't have cash to pay your bills and your mortgage? I think that's not bright. Protect your family is my attitude. So I'm a little weird. I'm going to give you my version of use of proceeds. I don't want you to follow it. I want you to follow you. Fair enough? For me, number one is cash. Cash. There is only one reason why a business owner has ever gone out of business. They ran out of cash. I have people tell me, you know what, yeah, but I went out of business even before I ran out of cash. That's because you had fear of running out of cash. You went out of business. There is only one reason you go out of business. Cash. So for me, it's not right, it's not wrong. I sometimes wonder if this is idolizing something that shouldn't be idolized, but I do like having a certain dollar amount in the bank at all times. it, for me, takes me away from thinking about money, and I hope you get what I'm saying now. I don't want to think about money when I'm with you. That is the last thing I want to think about. I don't want to know what's going on and who's signing up for what stuff out there. I am not even interested. That's for Roz's benefit now. I want to teach. I don't want to know, and I don't want to think about money. I want to add value because then the business will grow faster anyway. Interesting? Okay, so for me, number one is cash. Cash is flexibility. Cash is choices. Cash is king. The market goes down. This was your opportunity to pick something up. You didn't have cash, you're done. I have a company that's sitting on, in Texas that I coach, they're sitting on $400,000 in cash, and they're thinking about an acquisition right now, and the acquisition would take $300,000 of their cash to acquire a company that could add to what they're doing right now. All I spent the whole call on was not buy the company or not. We were still reviewing the financials to make that decision. All I kept telling them was, I want you to buy the company without $300,000. Seller financing, as much as humanly possible. Protect your cash. Because then some other opportunity may come up that's better. Or whatever. Does this make sense? My number two use of proceeds is access to cash. I have lenders that I respect telling me, don't do a HELOC. You know why? Because when the market goes down big time, they're going to take away your credit limit from you. And this is what I say. Yeah, but if I've already put $200K on a HELOC, they can't take it away from me. Does that make sense? And what's the monthly payment on a $200K HELOC at, fixed 30-year interest rates or whatever, even adjustable, $900, $700 a month or whatever, right? My question for you is I'm not saying to put $200K on the HELOC. I'm not saying it. I love debt. I don't like using it. I love having it. I love huge credit card limits because there have been times in my life, how about you? I love leverage. I'm not saying use it, but I am saying if you put $200K on a HELOC, they can't take it back from you. And your payments are relatively small. I'm just making that up, but I love access to cash. If you take cash plus access to cash, if Rosalind and I had the worst tragedy on earth happen, where tomorrow some disaster struck and all 600 of our paying clients disappeared off the face of the earth tomorrow. The question is, how long would we last, Martha and I and Rebecca, because of cash and access to cash? And the answer is longer than it used to be. Thank God. Fair enough? That's me. That does not have to be you. For me, the number three would be then paying down debt. Or maybe it might even be adding assets like real estate. I'm also going to tell you I'm a huge fan of real estate. I am not a fan of stock. Now, since 1926, they both have the highest equal return on investment. They're both 8% year over year for 100 years now. The reason I warn you on stock is you have too much access to it. 95% of individual investors F it up. They buy when the market is, and they sell out of panic when the market is, and the reason they sell is because it's easy to go on Ameritrade and push a button when you're nervous. With real estate, you can screw it up also, but it's a little harder to screw it up, especially if you live in it. Does that make sense? That's why 90% of the world's wealth was built on real estate and not stock, even though they have the same returns. You know who's making all the money in the stock market? Institutional investors, the big pension funds. Why? Because by law, they cannot take out more than a certain percentage, and those laws are in place to protect the stock market from crashing. So they can't screw themselves by taking money out of stock, because that's what they're going to do. They'll screw themselves, because then the market comes back later. Does this make sense? Okay. So you determine what are your use of proceeds, your 1, 2, 3, 4 things in order. So every month, if you say the first thing is I want 25K cash in the bank or whatever, right? I have peace when I have that or whatever it is for you. Great. Every time you get excess cash each month, you put it into that account or whatever. Once you get past 25, you can cross that one off the use of proceeds list and work on number 2. For me, that's the way you build cash. I'm not cash. That's the way you build your finances. It's an ideal way to do it. You might say, I'm seeing Patrick back here, long time no see Patrick, who's great at building assets, real estate assets, right? He's been great at it over the time, sort of acquiring properties and building up his net worth. Done a beautiful job of it. He might value that more than where, then maybe cash or access to cash, or maybe he needs access to, so what is your sequencing is my question, right? Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you on this one. You need this done for you. You will never do it with regularity. I don't care how big your business is, how small. It's worth the, say, people always ask me how much I pay for it. I'm thinking $150 a month-ish is the right ballpark for it. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Get on, for Pete's sakes, get on Upwork.com. Try 3 people out in 1 month, see what happens. Find somebody to do it for you. I don't know if that's something that Eddie's doing. He's so damn busy with. He's saying maybe yes, talk to Eddie too. Okay, that's my topic on a unique approach to cash management. Your balance sheet is the real scoreboard, not your income. I don't care how much you made. I care how much you keep. Interesting? So if I'm working with somebody and they go from 6 transactions and 3 years later they're doing 36 transactions, most people I know, they just blow it anyway. Okay, let's move on to topic number 2. First 3 things to lever and delegate. This is not right. This is not wrong. This is just your favorite old gringo over here telling you what I think. Are you ready? This is my bias. You don't have to agree with this one. Build your own business. Here's the sequence I would strongly recommend for you. Number 1, delegate database marketing. Why? It has the highest return on investment. It's goofy, right? I mentioned the Zach Bushy story, right? He got a $1.4 million listing. I think he's made us 3 payments of $99 for that program. He could do the program with us for 25 years, never get another deal, and he's still profitable. Even if that's not normal, that you would go pop a $1.4 million listing on the first thing, although Ed Rodriguez, his story was crazy with his, whatever number of deals that he got, right? Even if that's not normal, most people say that your return on investment on database is between 10 and 15 times your money. And in marketing, that's the holy grail of marketing. 10 times is the holy grail of marketing, okay? Number 1, get somebody doing pieces of this stuff for you to create lead flow. Sales cures all ills. Start by if all things are equal, they never are, but if all things were equal, start by levering to push the sales line first. Maybe it's like what I did with Rosalind, appointment setting, but I'll come back to that one. But I would recommend database. In fact, before Roz came aboard, I hired Minu from India. And one of the things Minu was doing for me even back then was doing all of my social media posts. I wrote the content, she posted it, and sending the private Facebook Messenger messages. So I started with database first, even before Rosalind came aboard. Interesting? Number 2, I would probably recommend as a second, administrative leverage. Administrative. I don't even care what that means for you. For some of you, it's, my favorite story is like, if you TC your own files, don't tell me. Please just don't even tell me. Even if I'm coaching you, don't tell me. I just don't want to hear it. I can't handle it anymore. Just stab me or something instead, okay? And just say, I have bad news here. I'll just stab you instead of tell you the story. Okay? Any kind of if you're playing with your files all the time in escrow, you have this issue, right? Or whatever example you have. By the way, for many of us in this room, we need help at home would be the next administrative task. It could be the housekeeper. Could be the meal prep, right? There was a good long period where my wife had a friend of hers, Christina, some of you know the story, making lunches for us. And she was a wonderful chef, organic stuff, $11 per meal. So she was $33 a day, and we were getting a lunch for Martha, Rebecca, and myself. Rebecca was taken to school. I was taken in the car with me everywhere I went. $33 a day. That's like $650 a month. And I don't even eat breakfast and dinner. I eat like a bird, right? That's a pretty good value. Now, here's the key. My wife didn't have to cook, but you're missing the point. She also didn't have to shop, and she also didn't have to clean. You guys are missing the point. A lot of the reasons that we don't attack the 800-pound elephant is because there's really so many things going on, and we're doing all of them. I didn't say hire a $5,000 full-timer. I said incrementally peel things off your plate that don't fit into what's the one thing. My one thing, I gotta sow and reap, or sow in myself in order to sow in others, if that makes sense. This weekend, I have to get some new good juicy material in me so I can be fresh and feed others. That's it. The rest of the business, I'll help, I'll consult, I'll macro manage on my calls with each of my teammates on Monday, looking at their metrics for 10 minutes, the end. Got it? Okay, third one, appointment setting. You might even want to start with this one. Appointment setting. Have somebody monitor your database. Have somebody sending out the messages. Have them book the appointments. How do you book an appointment? By sending a message that says, when are you free to chat? How many times should you send out that message to a lead that comes in through your database? Why don't you do it like Loan Depot, 15 times in 24 hours? I'm in. Or I'm cool with a phone call, a text, and an email every day for 5 straight days. Don't worry about it. They're either going to start doing something with you, not do anything with you, or tell you to take them out of the database. In which case, what do? Take them out of the database. That's it. Those are my 3. The 3 greatest things was what we put on the flyer, to lever and delegate. I got nothing more for you on it. I don't care if it takes you 5 years to lever and delegate all 3. I don't care. I care that we're making progress. Fair enough? Okay. Last one for you. Last topic of today. How are we all doing? You guys alive? Okay. That was pretty good. I'm impressed. All right, ready? Last topic. Shifting gears here for a little fun for a few minutes. Relationship building and networking. When I say networking, most people break out in a rash. Oh God, I'm going to go to like cocktail receptions like, we rep and get business cards. Kill me now. Or even NAREP. NAREP's fun though. NAREP's great. But all we're thinking is I'm going to go to some organization and try to network with people. Let's do it a little differently here. We're talking about networking and relationship building. Why is this important? Because Jordan Harbinger, if any one of you want to check out some other cool guy online, Jordan, Jordan, Harbinger, Harbinger, is considered the godfather of modern podcasting. And yet he's, I think, 36 years old and acts like it. He's pretty down to earth. He's pretty cool. And he's got all kinds of interviews online and stuff. And he wrote a book called The Art of Charm. The Art of Charm. Here's his story. You ready? Harder than the average person, and I had some smarts, so I was excelled in high school. And in college when everybody was out basically drinking and partying. And in law school. Until I got to a law firm. And the end was near. Why? Everybody worked hard, everybody was smart, and he said I felt like I was at the bottom of the class there, like I had been ill-prepared for a career in law. Now, at the law firm, and he said it really made him uncomfortable, like what am I going to do with my future, why am I here, that kind of thing. I had the same thing when I got to investment banking. When I was 22 and took a job in New York in a firm called Donaldson, Lufkin, Jenrette, the only reason I took the job in investment banking was because it paid me a salary of $60K my first year out of college, and my dad never made more than 35 or 38. I knew nothing about investment banking, and I mean I knew nothing about investment banking, and I was in a group of 12 new freshmen financial analysts who were expected to work 12-hour days at that firm, and I didn't know what they knew. They all took much deeper financial courses and things than me. Suddenly, I went from feeling like I was always at the top of the class to the bottom, like Jordan. Until Jordan had a mentor. So the law firm provided him with an older mentor, a senior partner in the business named Dave. And so twice a month, he was required to have a mentoring session with Dave, who clearly did not want to mentor Jordan. And he put his feet on the table and he's like, okay, what do you want? What do you want to learn? What do you want to know? And Jordan said, I asked him a question. You ever ask a question and the moment you ask the question, you regret that you ever opened your mouth? And he said, the question was, Dave, there are people around the firm that always talk about why you're not in the office very much compared to everybody else. And Dave immediately said, what? Who said it? Who's the one saying that? Where did you get that? And Jordan's like, I'm going to get fired. Why did I even open my mouth? And Dave said, well, actually, there's truth to that. I'm the one that brings in all of the business. I'm the deal rainmaker for the law firm, and all the other lawyers work on the deals. Interesting. So that's why you have this perpetual tan, Jordan said? And he said, well, actually, kind of, yeah, because I'm always in the Hamptons on boats, at bar mitzvahs, at weddings, at parties, at lunches, at barbecues, you name it. And Jordan said this, and it really caught my attention. He said there are 3 ways to succeed. Number 1, work harder. Number 2, be smarter. Or number 3, develop this third secret skill, networking and relationship building. So what I want to give you with, rather than a speech, is some homework that you can test for yourself and a couple of principles that you can throw in your tool belt. Homework assignment number 1. I want you to identify someone in your network that you have maybe weaker ties with, but you look up to them. They're an influencer, a gateway, a doorway, a reservoir of other people, potential referrals, or whatever. Okay? But you know your ties with them are a little weaker. And I can think of a number of people that fit in that for me. How about you? But let's just pick one right now. Just write down a name. And what I want you to do is, for the next several months, intentionally add value to that person. I'm going to give you a real life example. Christian was sitting here a little bit earlier. So he runs a number of offices. I'm already working with him, and he and Jeanette in their offices. But I view him as someone that it's not like we're tight. I don't see him very often outside of that. Some of you are working in that office, right? But yeah, you're on the team with him, and they're great people and all this, right? So I'll use him as an example if you don't mind. Love them dearly, could build better ties, right? So Christian mentioned to me when I was in the office a couple weeks ago that I said, how are things going? That's great, and this is great, and that's great, and they're building and all this. Incidentally, they're up from 100 agents to nearly 300 now. Spectacular, right? And all this is great. And he says, you know what I really want to work on big time is metrics, daily accountability, and huddles, and that kind of thing. And he shared that with me. Okay, got it? I can help. So how can I help? Well, the best book on this topic, in my opinion, is called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. Okay? So I could send him the book, but I hate doing that. You know why? I don't know about you, but when you send somebody a book, it's almost like telling them, here, read this, like I don't have enough on my plate right now. I don't like doing that. I don't feel like that's adding value to people. But what I could do is take the 2 or 3 pages that specifically talk about daily huddles and weekly meetings and send it to him by text in a link or an email. You've added value to him. Just thinking about you, Christian, thought this might be of help. The best pages I've ever read on the topic of what are you telling him? Forget about daily huddles and weekly meetings. What are you telling a person when you send them something that they were needing or craving? You're telling them, I care deeply about you. My homework assignment for you is pick one rainmaker, or whatever they want to call this person, and be intentional over the next several months to add value to them. Whether it's that, whether it's an article, a gift, whether it's connecting them to a resource that can help them, which we're going to get to in a minute. Be intentional. Fair enough? Okay, second homework assignment. Second one. Okay. Create what I like to call an interesting person fund. An interesting person fund. You're going to set aside money. Maybe it's a percentage of revenues. Maybe it's a flat dollar amount every month or whatever, just for a couple of influencers. Maybe it's a group of 5 people or 10 people or whatever, and it's just a certain sum of money, and you're going to use it with them. Maybe it's to buy lunches and hang with them or coffees. Maybe it's to send gifts. Maybe it's to get in a plane trip and go visit someone. Whatever that is. Be creative. Have fun with it. That's homework assignment number 2. Now we get to my all-time favorite. Homework assignment number 3. I like to call this one the double opt-in intro. Wow. Sorry, I have nothing to do with my time, I guess, right? Other than think of weird names for things. The double opt-in intro. The double opt-in intro. What is the double opt-in intro? It's you taking someone on one end of your network or web and connecting him with someone else on the other network side of your network or web, because the two could really benefit each other. That's the double opt-in intro. The reason I like to call it the double opt-in, it's kind of like email marketing, right? You want to get their permissions first. Real life example for you. I think Chris knows where I'm going with this one, right? I privately coach a guy named David Elston. David had his best year ever in real estate last year, 29 deals. He's on pace to do more this year. Great guy. David tells me, I did the exercise I did with you guys. What are the 3 things that need to happen for this to be the most successful year ever? What's the one thing that could sabotage? And he said, mornings. I don't get out of bed. When I get out of bed, I get my daughter to school, do all those things, and do my phone calls and things I need to do. When I don't get out of bed on time, which I don't do a lot, I end up missing that whole phone call session in the morning or whatever. And he says to me this, he says, Dave, any chance maybe, I don't know, I know you're busy, could you call me every morning at 6 a.m.? Okay, and I said, let me think on this one. I know what you need. Got it? Now I'm off hanging out in some other neighborhood in Whittier with these fine gentlemen, Conrad and Chris over here. And Conrad and Chris are sharing different things. Chris says, you know, the one thing I need the morning routine's my big one. It's my Achilles heel. If I can nail the morning routine this year, watch me. Watch me go. Because when I do that, I'm just different. My energy's different. I get to things sooner. So what did I do? I got a question for you, Chris. Would you mind terribly if I introduce you to some guy in my network? His name is David, right? This is not about business. This is not about connecting business. This is about mornings. And maybe you guys can connect in the morning. And then I text David, I got a guy named Chris. I think you guys will like each other a lot. You're both determined. You're both driven. You're both smart. You're both whatever. How would you like to have him as a partner in the morning? And he says, yeah. Because they both do, real businesses, and they're both determined and smart and good guy, all that kind of stuff, right? So what we're doing is we're connecting one end of the network to the other. Are you ready for my homework assignment? 1 double opt-in intro a week for 52 consecutive weeks. You pull that one off. You know what's beautiful about the double opt-in intro? That's leverage. Look, you could scale that through the moon and it takes none of your sweat equity. It's spectacular. But it does take effortful fun. You have to actually make the calls and connect the people and suggest it and think about it. How many people can you connect in your network, right? Like for me, I'll just get Tracy over there. Wave your hand, Tracy. Tracy does property management. They've been doing it for years, decades. Here's my way of double opting. Are you ready? I'm telling you all right now, Tracy and her husband Ryan, forget about business and clients. I work in their office. They're dear friends of ours. I trust them like people would trust close friends. You guys have anybody that needs leasing? Send it to them. Get a business card. Send it to them. Get to know them. That's a double opt-in intro. Make sense? Connecting people from, it costs me nothing to do, but it could benefit you greatly in some way. Okay? We don't know how that works. Double opt-in intro. Okay, let me give you number 4. This is like a sophisticated version of the double opt-in. Sorry for the funky language. The dinner party. The dinner party. Some people, and this is really wonderful, some people will do an dinner party in their home once a month, invite different people from their network, and have one person in their network actually share, almost like a guest speaker for a little brief bit, of value to everyone. But then it's just back to dinner and social. That kind of thing is super brilliant. Many of you know I'm doing this like board of directors at my house. Or those of you in the advanced accountability program come to my house every quarter. Why are we doing that? Most people are like, do you trust everybody that comes to your house? The reality is it creates an entirely different dynamic. I'm even looking at some people nodding that come to my house. They're connecting with each other now and doing business with each other and building relationships beyond it, right? I'm seeing Brendan Bobby, who just went to and spent some time at the box seat of an Angel game with another client or with another, folks that we're working with that are in a different industry entirely, right? But this is how you build people. Who knows what that relationship leads to? Maybe it leads to more ideas being exchanged or carrying ourselves on a higher level. Okay, so the dinner party, number 4, last one, number 5, and the hardest one of all. Real quick, before we do number 5, the principle behind all of this is not always be closing. ABC. It's always be generous. ABG. Always be giving. Always be generous. However, some people are givers and they don't do anything result-wise. There's a famous book called Give and Take by Adam Grant, University of Wharton, Pennsylvania professor. And Grant, in the first chapter of the book, proves that in all industries, nice guys finish last. In the bottom 10% of producers are givers. The second chapter of the book is, in the top 10% of producers in all industries and endeavors, it's heavily givers also. What? Nice guys finish first. The problem is they're not the same nice guys. They're different. What's the difference between the two groups of nice guys? The whole rest of the book, every chapter is on a different facet of why one group's different from the others. I can't give you a short version of it other than to say one group of givers will pursue parallel self-interest at the same time as they're always thinking of others. They have boundaries. They have goals and a goal orientation. If you're an S on the DISC assessment where you're an empathetic, you're a listener, you're relational, etc., you may not have a lot of driver in you, but you have to learn to have a little bit in you. And if you're a driver who's not relational, you can rub people the wrong way. I'm working with companies that have hired me to evaluate people that have really effed up and scared people out of their company. Literally for an HR project for a big company, right? You need it all. Leadership skills require that you sort of wear and develop all 4 of the DISC assessment skills, right? Okay. Give and take. So you have to always be giving, but here's number 5 homework assignment. You need something also, and you have to ask. You might want to do it after the other things get started, right? But you want to ask. You can ask for referrals. There's nothing wrong with it. People you know want to help you. The rule of thumb is simple. People you know hate being sold by you. You hate when I sell you. I hate when I sell you too, by the way. But you love helping us or whatever, right? Okay? It's a different dynamic if I tell you, hey, by the way, do you realize if you're doing something with us, you're also helping Roz achieve her dreams. It's a totally different energy. If you say, we had a gal, Jennifer Berry, sent out a text message to her database 2 years ago in a very tough spot in her life at the time. The text message said, hi Sue, hi Frank, hi whatever. Hope all's well for you and yours. Mind if I ask you a personal favor, a huge personal favor? My daughter wants to attend Biola, and we need the money in order to be able to afford her dorm room and tuition and all that. If I can have another 2 or 3, close or whatever, another 2 or 3 real estate transactions by the end of the year, we should be fine to be able to support her education. Do you know anyone that might be interested in buying or selling a home? 2 transactions closed from that one text message. The text message only went to 50 people. True story. In a time when she was it was important. Fair enough? Okay. Ask for help. People want to help you. Don't allow them the joy of the law of reciprocity to also serve you. It makes them feel good, but you're afraid of it. Okay, here's the final rules to wrap up. You ready? The principles behind networking and relationship building. Number 1, build the well before you're thirsty. Dig the well before you're thirsty. Dig the well before you're thirsty. You don't want to be asking stuff for people without it. Look, just imagine all of us work for a corporation, and today the CEO comes in and fires every person in this room, me and you. Here's the question for you. Write this down. Are you ready? Who are the 5 people you contact first for help? Who are the influencers, the door openers, the people that might help you in that situation? Write down some names. And here's the problem. It's already too late because you didn't dig the well before you're thirsty. Is that making any sense? Start with 1, 2, 3, 4 for homework, if you will. Keep the group of people you're targeting for this kind of thing small. Okay? 1 person's fine. 3 people are fine. 5 people are fine. Okay, number 1, dig the well before you're thirsty. Okay, number 2, give without expectation. Give without expectation. You're not giving in order to receive. You're giving in order to give. Okay? And last one, number 3, don't keep score. Don't keep score. Don't keep score. All you're doing is poisoning the relationship between you and them by keeping score. Okay? You're creating what I'd like to call a covert agreement. You know what a covert agreement is? You decided in your own mind by yourself that you had a written agreement with them that they had to do something for you. And they never agreed to it. Give generously and don't stop. And watch how sowing seeds will bear fruit. Watch how it works. We try to model that big time because it's the way we want to live anyway. Most of the people in this room that I know try to live like that too, I know. Very cool? But there is no greater way, right? There's an old proverb, he who reaps in tears will sow in joy. I'm sorry, he who sows in tears will reap in joy. And I think there's some truth to that in business. Okay, guys, I hope that was juicy enough for you. Let's do some takeaways and get out of here and go do something useful, huh?